Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Tusif. How you doing today?
Been busy. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty much the same.
Awesome. Yeah, it's pretty much the time of the year where we get really, really busy.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Now, for the folks who are first time here, this is Tosif with my very good friend Chris Peden. We are based out of Virginia, trying to help people out in average Americans to keep more of their money with themselves. And with that regards, one of the very buzzword that a lot of people probably have heard recently is the Corporate Transparency Act. Uh, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, and it might affect your business, your personal bank accounts, if not done correctly. So I will have Chris to kick that one off. Chris, what is this thing in the first place?
Well, the way I look at it is people, you're sitting there, you're watching television, you watch these procedural, police procedurals like NCIS and what have you, and they're going after bad guys, and they're like, well, this building was owned by an LLC or a corporation that masked everything. So what's happening now is that the federal government is now requiring you to file a report to list your what's called your beneficial owners. And that's going to be anyone who's going to be able to exert significant control over your company. If you're an owner of any kind of company, C Corp, S Corp, LLC, that's going to be a partnership. That's the other one I was trying to think of. And it's just so the government's going to want to know who owns and who exerts influence over this. And it's usually going to be someone who owns 25% or more of the company, so that you can't have people hiding behind the corporate veil and you have Mark Harmon tracking you down for something that was done to somebody in the Navy. God bless our sailors. So what this does is it provides some transparency, as the act says, to see who actually owns this company, so you can't really hide yourself behind it to do any kind of nefarious activities. Now you're going to have a lot of people up in arms about, well, this is government intrusion and all that, and why are you supporting this? Well, as my good friend Jesse Stone said, you know what? We're not in the right and wrong business. We're in illegal and illegal business. So all we can do, Joseph and I, is just let you know this is what's happening. So that's the basics of it. And really, it was put in place to make sure that they could trace who owns a company, to have trace it, to make sure there's no money laundering or what have you. So that's really the basics of what it is.
So interestingly, what you just mentioned, the 25%, especially when we go to C Corp, a lot of the times we see, uh, especially the big CEOs, that a lot of the times they don't even own 14%, 15%. Like one of the, if I remember correct, Twitter, they the highest they could own was 15%, and that was
Yeah,
the one who's controlling it. So when
yeah.
you said 25%, is it 25% of the entire company or 25% of the maybe the voting rights, controllable shares, those kind of things?
I'm thinking it's going to be the voting rights if I'm reading this correctly. But also keep in mind, for these corporations in the 1090 or the 10K and the 10Q reports, they're going to be listing how much the officers are, how much stock you're going to own. So that provides some transparency. But what they're really looking for is people who may not be in the light there, that aren't required to file with the SEC. So it opens up for companies that aren't going to be capitalized and have listings on the stock exchanges.
Yeah, so if someone owns stocks in Amazon, don't worry, they're not going to be probably coming at you because you don't own that much of voting
Yep,
rights in the first place.
exactly.
So awesome. The second question I had is how long do we actually have and how do we comply?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So if on for anyone who had a business set up before 11/59 December 31st of 2023, that means that you have until January 1st of 2025 to register your business. So you've got a little bit of time. However, if you set something up on New Year's Day because you made that New Year's resolution, you're starting your business, you have 90 days from January 1st to register that business. So if it's new for 2024, you got to get that report in to do it. But if you already had it set up, you have for the rest of the year to do it. But don't wait on this. Make sure that you get signed up for it.
Sure, awesome. And when it comes down to the concern, especially a lot of my real estate friends who typically wants to save them from professional renters or professional litigators, where their job is to, hey, I slipped, oops, I want to sue you. What's going to happen to those ownerships? And is this data is going to be for public as well?
Well, really, what you should be doing, and this is going to be the tax write-off for you, is have insurance. Tusif and I have what's called errors and omissions insurance, so that if we have an oops on a tax return, someone comes after us, that will cover the oops. So what I would encourage everyone out there, if you had your business, make sure you do have some liability protection there, so that you are going to be covered with it. Will it open you up? Potentially, but you're going to be listed. But if you're a savvy business owner, you're going to know that you're going to need to have insurance in case something does happen. If you're walking around without insurance, you're really playing a risky game. And Joseph knows a few people who could get you set up with a great policy.
Absolutely. So the next question I have is, what happens if someone owns multiple layers of LLC? So say, for example, one of my friends who owns about 37 properties and 6 different LLCs, all of them are held by a single Wyoming LLC. So Wyoming does not really report to the federal government, as much as I know, the ownership information. So for the 6 other ones that actually are underneath it, is it going to be, is someone going to have to file that as an individual, or since all of them reporting to a single LLC, that's going to be the reporting in element for those 6 months?
Well, I would throw a question back to you. Does that do those LLCs that lead up to the main one, do they all have their own EIN numbers?
Yes.
Well, then I would say that the Fincen is going to be they're going to be on the list. So it would behoove you to register each one of those and send a report in for each of them.
Okay. What happens if it is a trust?
It's a trust. The regulations I saw weren't too clear on trust, but if you do have one of those, we're going to share with you the frequently asked questions to there. And when in doubt, give them a call and say, look, here's what I've got. What do I have to do? But I didn't see anything when I was doing some research that said anything about trust. But you know what? It doesn't hurt you to give them a call and say, hey, this is what I got. What do we do? Or talk to Tusif or I, and we can do some more research into that for you.
Absolutely. So for my viewers, I can just share quickly. This is the link that you're going to be coming in, which is fincen.gov. Of course, beneficial owner interest, that's the BOI. If you go / you have the steps to go for the how do you file it. If you're going to be qualifying as an exemption, these are the individual situation that you will not have to file. That means if, like for ourselves, since we're an accounting firm, we might be qualifying for reporting requirements. And same thing, if it is inactive entity, what it means is if you're not putting your LLC with proper regulation with the Secretary of State, like a lot of people just keep an LLC, open an LLC for some deductions, never renew it. That's not going to be, that might be one of the things that you're going to be going for the exemptions. And of course, if you're tax exempt entity in the first place, like a lot of 501c3, and a lot of people, as a matter of fact, I was speaking to another group of very savvy investors right before this show today, where we were discussing about how to leverage charitable organizations to invest into real estate as well. So that's another thing that might be one of the things that is going to be on the compliance of exemptions. And in terms of other ones, most of those are typically government or nonprofit situation, or that really deals with the regular money, like bank,
Yep.
credit unions, because those are already highly regulated in the first place.
Yeah, just I was going to say that that's one thing in common. You look at all these is that they've got other people that they need to reports that need to be filled out, like an securities exchange, tons of reports, banks, tons of reports, credits unions, tons of reports. So it's the ownership's probably already being reported for that. Absolutely. As well as accounting firm, the big accounting firms and the medium-sized ones have to do a lot as well.
Like even for myself, and for my EA process recently, if I remember correct, I had background checks almost 3-4 times, and now they're doing the last time again when they're finally, I have completed all my EA credentials requirements, and when I submitted, now they're doing my background check again. So whenever you're doing through anything that is fiduciary, you need to realize that the government is actively doing a lot of checks. Most likely, even with Chris and myself, they're doing constant checks so that we comply with the money laundering and all those kind of stuff, especially since both of us have insurance licenses as well. So make sure to check if you're in any of these. And of course, this is insurance company, not insurance brokerage. A lot of the people might think that, hey, I'm a small insurance brokerage, I have a few agents underneath me. You're probably not going to comply, even though there is an exception like this. And of course, one of the things that did interest me is the way it is probably going to pan out eventually over the years is you might eventually need these Fincen BOI compliance to open business bank accounts. As Chris was asking, if someone has an EIN, if you want to open a bank account with exclusive to that EIN, they might eventually start asking for those information as well. Chris, what happens if I don't want to? Like, there's a lot of people, they're like, hey, I don't want anyone to know anything, what I do and how I do it. What happens there?
Well, this is one of those that this is not voluntary. This is something that you have to come and do register. Otherwise, you're probably going to be hit with some fines, and you are going to become under greater scrutiny for not having reported this. So it
Awesome.
really does. You want to make sure that you comply with this. And from what I've seen, that it's not really that much. Doesn't require that much paperwork. Really, just have to list the name, address, identification number, and what percentage they own of the company. It should be fairly easy to fill out.
Awesome. And another thing to remember is it's going to be $500 a day if you fail to comply before the 2 deadlines Chris mentioned. Is if you're starting this year, you have 90 days from the start of the year, and are in some cases start of your filing. And if you're before December 31st, 11:59, then you have up until January 1st of 2025. That's about a year or so.
Yep.
So,
but don't wait till then, folks. Do this now.
And you might just, if you forget, definitely look into the unfortunate aspect of having $500 a day is huge.
Yeah, I can't afford that.
So another thing that I was talking to you about, especially the statutory trust, business trust foundation, this specific FAQs does have most of the answers. As this one mentions, the state law, it is gonna depend somewhat on the jurisdictions that this particular trust is created in. So make sure to understand how your trust is created. I don't want to get too much into trust because trust can be really complicated really fast. So make sure to understand what type of trust is it. If it is statutory or business, that's significantly different than just a land trust. So make sure to understand where you are at. Now, of course, we did discuss on uh, when and the timeline. The next thing, I will put this specific link into our description today. And another thing I would recommend is probably to just hit this chat. There are certain people during the working hours uh, to literally answer your questions. And another interesting thing I would always recommend is like they have put this thing in red is you don't really have to hire someone or pay someone to register your beneficial ownership information with Fincen. I'm gonna drop this link. Just go into it, fill out your form, and that's it. As long as you have that Fincen ID, that's it. Don't all. I mean, at the end of the day, those people whoever is going to be doing it, they would have to get the same level of information from you in the first place. And instead of giving the type it, if you have to type the same thing, why not type in the original form? That's it, and be done with it. So definitely look into it. Definitely get this one done. And another thing, especially on the tax implications, if you are gonna be having this Fincen, one of the things Chris was mentioning regarding the money laundering aspects, if you have been unfortunately not declaring properly your foreign transactions, foreign business ownership, it might be very beneficial for you guys to start doing it right away. Because, of course, as we move in technology more and more, eventually we would be getting into a situation where it's going to be much more easy for everyone to track you, even whether you like it or not. So why incur into things that you don't need to? Because we're all citizens of this country. You probably are going to save a few bucks here, but the penalty is going to be significantly so much, it's not going to be worth it. So make sure whenever you are doing foreign businesses, unless you qualify for some of the exemptions, like you make that as your primary domicile, you can prove that, hey, that's the only place and you don't have absolutely no income from US. That's a different thing. But if not, then definitely look into bringing or declaring your proper income in proper forms. And if you're part of the ownership of a partnership or a corporation, make sure to have them fill out that K2 and K3 forms. Typically, if someone is just all the partnership members are US individuals, like green card or citizens, a partnership does not always have to file the K1 and K2. But a lot of the cases, like I have a few friends who are actually only Canadian citizens. They don't have US green card. They don't have US citizenship or dual citizenship. Then make sure to have your general partners or the people who are in control know that, hey, I am not a US citizen or US person yet. So you need to file those K2 and K3 for me as well. And definitely, if you own more ownership into a US corporation, definitely look into declaring all of those information here. I'm working on actually recording a video where I'm going to register one of my own corporations. It's going to be a dummy corporation that doesn't have anything. So if someone sees anything, any activities, definitely let me know. That's not me. The purpose of that entity is going to be to show you guys exactly how to do it, and that's it. After that, it's going to get closed. So hopefully we were able to answer questions. Chris, is there anything else you would want to add while we are on the screen?
Yeah, folks, by not doing this is what we call an unforced error by doing this. You know you got to happen. Don't complain that it's one more thing you got to do. Just get this out of the way. And if you have problems with this, contact your congressperson or senator and let them know you're not particularly happy about that and let them take it from there. But
Yep.
while it's still the rule, follow the rule.
Absolutely. And I was telling some of my people that, hey, this is not North Korea yet. So let's not make it North Korea, and communicate with your local representatives. We are in a position where we're lucky and privileged enough to still have a communication with our local representatives. Take leverage of it, people. Just don't say that,
Absolutely.
hey, I don't like this thing, so I'm not going to talk to you. It doesn't work like that.
Right. And also, Joseph, and I've worked with a lot of politicians, and they also want to hear when there's something that you do like. So let me throw that
Absolutely.
in. If there's something, let them know, because keep in mind they're getting angry calls all day about this. But yeah, also give them a call and say, "Hey, I like that you did this on this bill. Thank you very much," because that'll also open them up when you do have a problem that they're going to listen to you. Because hey, this isn't just the person who's complaining all the time. It's like, hey, this is one of my constituents who likes me. I'm going to take their call.
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, just as you brought up, there was a recent Virginia tax refund given by the governor. If someone's related to him, I really applaud that. I appreciate him. And there was another thing that is on the news that he's pushing for reducing the taxes and also associated some of the VAT, if I remember correct, for businesses. So if he's doing it, I really applaud it. If there is someone who's close to it, make sure to convey our appreciation. And of course, me personally being a business owner, I personally like having leverages and getting leeways to save on taxes while we continue to invest into growing more work opportunities for the people in US.
Absolutely.
Awesome. In that case, let me stop sharing. Anything else that you wanted to add before we close today's episode, Chris?
No, Joseph, I really appreciate that you pulled up the website. We're showing our viewers how that worked and everything there. So, folks, get on over there, get your company registered, and so you can get out of the way and enjoy the wonderful January and the snow we're supposed to be getting.
Absolutely. And of course, if you have any specific questions, you feel free to reach out to us. We're also business owners. We are also registering ourselves. I don't have only accounting business, so my other businesses does need to be registered. Since I have multiple business ownership, and when I'm gonna be doing that, I'm definitely gonna be working on probably recording while I'm registering one of my businesses. So make sure to stay tuned. And as Chris mentioned, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out and we